Hey everybody, welcome back. It is Miss McClanahan here again. Miss M, thank you for joining me again today for a little bit of Spanish help. If you're my students, this is the half of the lesson that I did today in class on August 13th of 2019. So if you need reinforcement or if you were absent today, hopefully this will be a way that you can get caught up sufficiently. So what did we talk about yesterday? Yesterday we talked about the basic 5 vowels and how to pronounce them, and we practiced them just as individual vowels in a syllable all alone, so they were very simple. And you may recall that it was a, e, I, o, u were the 5 vowels that we discussed in episode 1. Today what we're going to talk about is this crazy word up there, the word diphthong. And diphthong means 2 sounds. And so in Spanish, diphthongs work a very specific way. And so that word up there, diphthongs, try saying that, diphthongs. And in Spanish, the word is also equally very awkward, diphthongos. So we're specifically talking about Spanish diphthongs today, which might be a little bit different from what you are thinking of with English diphthongs. So what you see here in front of you in this chart, right here, not that, is all of the possible Spanish diphthongs. And if you're looking and you're thinking, but that's not every vowel combination that there could be, that is true, because there are other vowel combinations in Spanish not involved in today's lesson that are called hiatus, and that is a lesson for another day. So my plan right now is to just get through the 2 boxes here that we actually got through in class today. Additionally, while we're practicing these sets of diphthongs right here, we're also going to talk about a couple of extra letters, some consonants that might be helpful to just kind of gloss over and talk about just a little bit today, just to help you with this pronunciation. Okay, so what is a diphthong? A diphthong is a syllable in Spanish that has not 1 vowel but 2 of the Spanish vowels in it, but the combination is a strong and a weak, or a weak and a strong. And when you do that in Spanish, the weak one is barely even noticed. It's so tiny, it's almost like just an afterthought. And the strong one gets most of the spotlight. So what you see right here is when you're dealing with Spanish diphthongs, you have 3 of the vowels that are considered strong. And then you have 2 of the vowels that are going to be considered the weak ones in a diphthong. So a, e, and o are going to be strong. I have them marked in red. And then the 2 weak ones I have marked in purple with the I and the u. So if we start with our first combination here, what was the sound of the Spanish A? The Spanish A by itself was a. And the sound of the I is I. So if I were to say them equally, that would be I. But in a diphthong, you do not say them equally. The strong one gets the power and gets all the attention, and the weak one gets barely anything. So it's going to be I. So you hear ah, but you barely hear the E at the end. I, like that. And it doesn't matter whether it's written as an I or a Y, it's the same thing. It's I. So again, barely hearing the I or the Y at the end. So here's my first word to demonstrate that. This is the word there is in Spanish, and because the H is silent, then you aren't even going to hear it anyway. So basically it's just the exact same pronunciation that we just did, I. Okay, so it's not I, it's I, and you barely hear the E at the end. So that's your first example of a diphthong, the AI. Now is the time I do want to talk about a consonant. I want to talk about the Spanish R. So think for a minute about the American R. It's but that sound doesn't exist in Spanish at all. In any Spanish-speaking country, nobody is ever going to say for their R, for their Spanish R. It is non-existent. So what do you say for the Spanish R, the single R? What do you say? So I want to give you an example in English of the sound, because we have the sound in English, even though it isn't a letter in English, but we have the existing sound in English. So I want you to look at the word right here. It doesn't really matter which ones of these that we look at. So let's just look at this middle one here, better. Okay, right here when you do a double T, what exactly are you doing here when you say the double T in better? Okay, when you say the word better, are you saying a T? Because say that word with a real T, better. No, we don't say, nobody says better. All right, are you saying a D when you say this word? Is it an actual D that you're saying, as in day? No, it is not. It is not a D because that would be better. Okay, and so it would be just, it's one flick of the tongue, better. That's all it is. It's one flick, better, ada, ada. That is the Spanish R. The single Spanish R is just one flick of the tongue, ada. So if you say the word better, but instead of putting on the end, put an EH on the end. So like this. Okay, say that word, bere. It's not a word. That's not a word in English, but we're just making this up, okay? Bere, bere, bere. Keep the that you say when you say better. Keep that sound. Bere, bere. Okay, now get rid of the B at the beginning. And now say that. Ere, ere. Now you have literally said the Spanish R. Ere, ere, ere. That's all it is. The single R is just a flick of the tongue. So now let's try this word, okay? This is the Spanish word air. The air, for example, in my classroom, the air is very cold to me all the time. I'm always cold. Okay, so this is the Spanish word air. And so right there you have the first diphthong that we're working on, I. And then right here you have the Spanish R that we just talked about, like that. So aire. This is only a two-syllable word, not a three. Aire. Okay, can you try it? Aire. Aire. Two syllables, only two syllables. Aire. All right, so what we just did was we practiced the A-I or the A-Y, I. And aire, aire. And at the same time, we added a new letter, which was the consonant, the pronunciation of the consonant R to this. Now we move on to the opposite. Instead of A-I, now we're doing I-A. So instead of strong, weak, it's weak, strong. Okay, so this is E and this is A, but we have to get through the E quickly and get to the A, which is the star of the show here. So it's almost more like a Y again. Ya. So, ya. And the A is the strong letter, not the E. So, ya. Okay? Now, in this word, you see that it is spelled just like in English. The word piano in English, spelled the same in Spanish. Now, in English, this is a three-syllable word, piano, piano, because the P-I is a syllable, the A is a syllable, and the N-O is a syllable. So it's a three-syllable word in English. But in Spanish, because it is a diphthong, the I-A is a diphthong, which is going to be considered as only a one-syllable sound, okay? Even though you're saying two things, you're doing the E and the I, but the E is so tiny that it is not even a full syllable. So it's considered one syllable. You're going to say it as a two-syllable word. Piano, 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 piano. Two syllables. This is one of the things that gives Americans away when they're speaking Spanish and they forget or they don't understand about diphthongs, and they will say it as a three-syllable word, just like in English. Piano. Okay, that gives them away that that it isn't their native language. So, piano, two syllables. So that is my first example of the IA. And then here's my next word. And so let me ask you this. If there's a house fire in your neighborhood, everybody runs out. Well, especially if the house fire is near your house, or if it is your home, the first thing you do is run away. You get your family out and you run away from the fire. But what does the fire department do? They run towards the fire. They run toward the fire. And this is the Spanish word towards. Hacia. Okay, towards. Okay, now, again, you have, here's a syllable, H-A, which is the silent H again, so A. And then this is one syllable right here. It is not, this is not a three-syllable word. This is not hacia. Okay, this is a two-syllable word because this is a diphthong. And so, hacia, and that is not strong enough to get its own syllable by itself. So this is one syllable. Xia. Xia. So that's my second example of the diphthong IA. Weak, strong. Weak, strong. Xia. Okay, the A is the strong letter. All right, so that, now we've done AI and IA. Now we move on here to the second box. And in this box we have, let me make sure, yes, okay. Before I do this box, now I want to talk about the double R, the trilled R sound. The next word doesn't have a double R in it, technically, but here is the rule. Okay, you see the word. This is the Spanish word queen, and then actually the one after it is king. So that's what we're doing next, is queen and king. And then actually the word after that is technically a double R word, okay? But here's the thing. When I was first exposed to the Spanish language, I was a freshman. I went to school here, but in my freshman year, as in my Spanish 1, I actually never learned how to roll my R. And at the time I was more involved in music than I was languages, so I never did. Back then we didn't have to have Spanish 1 and 2 or French 1 and 2 or whatever, 2 years to get into a 4-year university. And so I took the Spanish 1, but I just never took Spanish 2. So I never learned how to roll my R's until I got to my community college. And in my second year as a sophomore, I took Spanish 1 again, community college level, and then moved on from there to get my degree in a combination French and Spanish, my bachelor's degree, my BA. But my little tiny woman that I had for Spanish 1 at the community college taught us how to roll our R's in Spanish. And it was kind of neat how she did it, but I was too self-conscious to practice in front of anybody, so I would practice in my car going back and forth to college in the privacy of my car. So here's what she taught us. She said, you say these 3 English words, you start slowly, and then you just build up speed gradually, and then you practice the trill. So it would be like this. Bitter, better, butter, 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 That's how she said to practice it. And at first it comes out, It sounds so dumb at first. You're like, I can't do this. But if you keep practicing, next thing you know, you're going to do it right. And you're going to be like, what the heck, I just did it. And then you will do it 10 more times incorrectly, and then you'll do it again. And then 8 more times incorrectly, and then you'll do it a couple times. And eventually you'll figure out what's going on up here with the little trill in order to roll your R's in Spanish, okay? So, bitter, better, butter, bitter, better, butter, bitter, better, butter, bitter, better, butter, like that. And just keep practicing, and eventually you're going to figure out what's going on, and you'll be able to do it consistently. So, for me, it seems like if I jut my lower jaw out just a little bit, that I can get that trill better. So, I just kind of jut my lower jaw out a little bit. So when I was a kid, I'm sure those of y'all that are my age remember the Ruffles commercials where they would say, Ruffles have ridges. And so we used to practice our R's back when we were kids. I'm 57. By trying to say those commercials, that Ruffles, they don't do those commercials anymore, but I'm old enough to remember the Ruffles have ridges commercials, and I couldn't do it back then. So, okay, so now that is the how you do the double R. And so on the next few words, they don't have a double R, but the rule is that if a word begins with an R, with a single R, that you need to try to roll it if you can. So this word, which is king, you're going to try to roll that. But now we're talking about, first we're talking about the EY. So this was ah, and so that was I. And then this was ya. So if this is ah, what is this? Remember? Ah, eh. Okay, so this is going to be a. It's kind of like our word day, but without the D on the beginning, and don't give the E quite so much credit as you would do in English when you say day. Okay, so A. And it doesn't matter, here it's the same thing, A. All right, so here's your first one, re. One syllable, Rey. It isn't rey. It's not two-syllable words, just one syllable. Rey. Okay? So that's king, and then we have queen, and it is a two-syllable word, and so you have the reina, reina, two syllables, reina, not reina, okay? Reina. Again, all we're talking about right now is diphthongs, diphthongs. All right, so you have two vowels next to each other, and one of them is considered strong, and one of them is considered weak. So in this set, it was strong, weak. Now, let's talk about weak, strong. We're going to flip it. So we had ya, and now we have ye, okay? Ye, as in yay, but without the e at the end, okay? Ye. This is the Spanish word earth. If you look at the word, you can kind of see our word like terrestrial is buried in there, because our word terrestrial and the Spanish word both came from the same original Latin word, and so you see a lot of relationships here sometimes between Spanish and English because of our language is not a Latin-based language, but we have thousands of words that are from Latin that we have now in English, and terrestrial is one of them, okay? So here you have two syllables. This is a syllable. It is not two syllables, it's one syllable, and here's your second one in the word. So this isn't tierra, okay? It's not a three-syllable word, it's just a two, so this is tierra, 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 two syllables, tierra. Can you try it? Tierra. Okay, so it's a two-syllable word. That is a yet another diphthong. Ye, tierra. Okay, diphthongs are all over the Spanish language. Okay, you're going to find them all the time. Even just saying buenos dias, you have a diphthong in that first word, B-U-E. U-E is one of our diphthongs here. Okay. So that's why it's very important that you learn how to pronounce diphthongs. Okay, here is my next IE word. This is serpent. Some people use this for snake, although there are better words for snake. But whichever, okay? So this is a three-syllable word because we have serpiente. Okay, it's three syllables. This is a syllable right here because this diphthong, that I is not strong enough to be on its own. So it has to glom on to the strong E there and be part of its syllable. So there, can you roll that one? I know it's a single, but when you have an R in front of a consonant of another syllable, we roll that if we can. So serpiente, three syllables. Serpiente. Can you try that? Serpiente. Serpiente. Okay, serpent. All right. So that is what I wanted to talk about with that. All right, so here's what we reviewed today. We talked about yesterday how we learned the individual vowels of A, E, I, O, U. Go back to episode 1 to catch that. And then today was the intro to Spanish diphthongs. Diphthongs and diphthongos in Spanish, and we did the first two sets out of all of the sets that you see here. These are the only diphthongs. If you see something is missing, it's not a diphthong, it's a hiatus, and we'll talk about those soon. All right, so I, ya, a, ye. That's what we covered today. Additionally, we talked about the single R, which is ra, ra, as in aire, aire, like that, not aire, ever. And then we also talked about the double R today, which is r, r. So we like serpiente and tierra, tierra, okay? And just as a reminder that we always keep our H's silent, so in that very first word for there is, I, and we don't hear the H. So that is what I wanted to discuss here in episode 2. Stay tuned. Episode 3 is going to be the new vocab words that actually we did go over today. We went over just a few of our vocab words in order to practice basic greetings and social pleasantries. So that will be episode 3 coming up. All right, everybody have a great day, and thank you for joining me whether you are in my class or were in my class at some point, or you are tuning in just to work on your Spanish and get it kind of tuned back up a little bit. I hope this helped. Everybody have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Adios.